Really bringing back some good business for Toledo.
Breaking news whenever, wherever. From WTVG Toledo, Bridges, with your host, Doni Miller, connecting our community with information about issues and opportunities.
Hey, good Sunday morning. I am so glad to have you here this morning. We are talking about something that affects us all. We're talking about the importance of the father factor. We're talking about, again, the impact of dads on the lives of their kids. And, you know, we had the opportunity to speak about Child Support Awareness Month a few weeks ago here and talked an awful lot about the importance of dads. But I really think that in this society that we're living in today, we cannot underestimate the value of the family. And dads play a critical role in the development of children and the sustainability of families. In that regard, there is a wonderful conference coming up in just a few weeks. It's called Boys to Men, the Boys to Men Conference. We have the founder of that conference here with us this morning, the Reverend Dr. Janice Carson, who has worked in this community for quite a long time on this and many other issues that affect this community, and I welcome you.
Thank you for having me.
You are very, very welcome. And Sam Hancock, everybody knows Sam Hancock. This is a man of many, many, many hats. We've seen him here before but on Bridges, but you were always involved, Dr. Hancock, in things that affect the lives of children. And we are so excited to have you a part of this initiative as well. Welcome again. And this is the only time I get to see you, too, you know, is when we're on TV. So, you know, we need to fix that. You'll have to buy my lunch sometime soon. Yeah, that would be great. So let's talk a bit about what the purpose of this conference is, and I found this this purpose in your in some of your information. And what you basically are trying to do is to start a dialogue with mentors and with kids and with men in this community about this thing that you all are calling a crisis. And not just you all are calling this a crisis. Nationally, the absence of men in the home has been identified as a crisis in this community. Is this a fair statement of what you're trying to do, Dr. Carson?
That's a very good statement there. As I have been doing research on this over a number of years, I found that it is now a crisis in the United States since 1986. It's a worldwide crisis, but the United States has taken the lead since 1986.
So this is an issue in other countries as well?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's interesting.
Yes, and it is across all races. White, Hispanic, and black.
That is very interesting to hear, because we tend to have this conversation in terms of men of color. And so the perception gets to be that it's men of color who are leaving homes or having babies out of wedlock and not being present for those children. But I hear you now saying that it's everybody. It's every race.
However, in the African American community, it has reached stratospheric levels. It's out of this world, the number of men that are not in the home. And it has generated what we call father hunger. There's a hunger for fathers, a longing and a hunger, an eagerness to have the fathers in their lives. And when the fathers are not in the kids' lives, there is you actually have what we call a number of social effects of that. You find that there are gangs, you find that there's behavioral problems in the schools, emotional problems, low self-esteem, lack of identity, dropouts. I was reading in Marian Edelman's literature that over 6,900 some children, African American children, are suspended from school each day across the United States.
Yeah, you should all know Marian Edelman, a nationally renowned child advocate. Yes. Again, that figure again?
Over 6,900 some black kids
per day.
Yeah,
per day across the
United States.
No kidding. And that number's been tied specifically or in some way to the absence of the dad in the home?
Yes.
Sam, one of the hats that you wear is that of a therapist and a counselor. And when you, in those travels, in that particular line of work that you do so well, what are you seeing as some of the manifestations of absent dads?
Doni, when I interact with young people, particularly boys, when I look into their eyes and when I see that when they look at me, it's almost like they've never seen anyone like me. Someone with a tie, you know, someone who shows them respect, someone who's not berating them. It's obvious to me that I'm almost a phenomenon. And it's always startling when I see that, because I don't even know how to react to it sometimes, but then I have to remember the statistics Dr. Carson just shared, that a lot of our young people, particularly boys, simply don't interact with positive, real male role models a lot. I was thinking about some research that Dr. Carson was talking. I was in Baltimore at a Success for All conference. It's a curriculum that's used all over the country. And one of the speakers said that the individuals who build prisons, that they look at boys particularly in 3rd grade who are having problems, and that's how they determine how many prisons
that they're
going to build.
Right, that's a fairly well accepted study. Yes,
no
I've read
question about it. And when I interact with my young men at our school, the Academy of Educational Excellence, I'm constantly reminded of that. 70% of the children in charter schools are of color anyway, and many of our young men simply don't have positive male role models.
But you know what? We talk about this a lot. We talk about this a lot on the show. And in fact, I'll be honest with you, I was a little slow to want to do this show today because we talk about this issue a lot on this show. And but even though we talk about it, there still seems to be a great amount of inertia around getting the issue changed. And so what do we do to make a difference? What do we do to make a difference in this conversation? One
thing is, and Dr. Carson alluded to it earlier, because she actually came to a school that I used to be the leader of at Star Academy some time ago. We need to hug these children more, Doni. We need to hug them. We need to tell them we love them.
Literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively. And I know a lot of educators don't agree with me on that. No, don't hug the kids. Somebody might charge you with sexual harassment. And I'm not on that, okay? I feel that when these babies want to hug me, I'm going to hug them. When these babies look at me, I have kids hug me that I'm seeing for the first time.
What does that mean to that child, though? What's the importance of that?
It affirms them as a human being, you know, as someone who's worthy. You know, I mean, our society does, unfortunately, a pretty good job, you know, of devaluing people in general and children in particular. You know, a lot of times we as parents forget that children get depressed too. Children worry. We say, what they got to worry about? They're just kids. All they do is go to school. No, they worry too. They get depressed. They have issues. They're worried about a lot of stuff. And we need to recognize that and affirm these babies.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And you know, the other thing too is that we have this sense that kids are flexible, that they're malleable, that, you know, they're resilient. I've heard that a million times, you know, oh, they'll get over it. They're just a child. But the impact of the environment in which they grow up can be devastating and long held by these children. Would you agree, Dr. Carson?
Yes. I just use a personal example. In my own family, my dad was there present most of the time, but there were gaps. And into adulthood, I have felt those gaps. And so those gaps are there, ingrained in memories and behavior and lack and longing. And so many adults you see today have gone through what we call this phenomenon of father hunger. I was listening to a Christian radio station a while back, and there were men on that panel, on that radio station, 50 and 60 and 70 years old, that were still moaning and begroaning the fact that their dads were not in their lives to significantly nurture them and to be a role model for them.
You know, there's a study that I read probably a year or two ago now that said, and I'm sorry I don't have the source data with me, but that said that women, no matter how successful their relationship is with their mother, and no matter how successful the environment is that, you know, moms prepare for them, have some damage, some psychological damage from the absence of a dad. And it might not be at a level that you can see it or identify it immediately, but it's there. And so hearing you talk about having those gaps ingrained in your head about your dad's absence brings that to mind. Men are important in that role of dads. Why do you think we continue to devalue men in that role? especially black women, I won't look at you, I'll look at you and answer that. Especially black women, why do we continue to devalue the role of black men in these families?
I think we're angry and we're afraid. Many women have experienced a negative kind of relationship, even though the dad may have been in the home, but there are gaps, and the guy is not there. He's not there, and we don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sam.
And I think technology, as useful and as wonderful and as lovely as technology is, unfortunately, there are so many negative images, you know, of black men. So many negative images that are perpetuated by black men. And our kids, they get it from everywhere. They get it in print media, they get it auditory, they get it visual. It's just so overwhelming. And a lot of times, I think that our young people, I mean, it's just a subliminal message, you know, that you're not very important. If you see a black man in a newspaper, he's in most cases probably not either in handcuffs and we all know that. But I believe that sometimes we minimize the importance of the media, and I'm not saying that I'm not blaming the media, but I'm just saying that all this information, it really just affects our people.
Well, but you're right, and the media has a significant role in shaping the perceptions of many things in our cultures, and shaping the perceptions of other people is certainly among that. But I would challenge us at this table and in this community, and I've said this a dozen times on this show, we need to change the conversation ourselves. We need to change the conversation ourselves. Instead of accepting what we hear about the frailties of black men and the difficulties, there are so many positive things that we all bring to this table and to this conversation, and we need to start focusing on that and honoring the presence of black men and the importance of men in the society. Otherwise, I think nothing changes. I think nothing changes.
And
I'm going to ask you to hold that. Okay. Remember that thought, though. Okay, remember that thought. Brian's making me go away and pay some bills. We have to scoot away for just a second, but we'll be right back. Go nowhere.